What do you think about, or let me restart, do you believe that there is an embedded hate already in some of the police that are on the different forces based upon hate between nationalities? For instance, the Irish and Africans, or the Italians and Africans. Do you believe that because of that conflict that is already there, do you believe that they take that into the force with them?
Well, I mean, whoever a person is, if you are racist and you join the police force, you're not going to leave your racism behind. And so one of the things that needs to be done is to be able to screen people who are going to join the forces to see what kind of political climate they bring into the force. Now, I don't want to believe that all Irish or Italians and all blacks are racist to the point that they're going to hate people for simply being a particular ethnic group. But going back to your area, Long Island, when you have a police that is not representative of the people, all the people, then that in itself is it's an indicator of the establishment which create the police force that itself being racist. Because the police force is a reflection, should reflect the people that it polices. Okay, so if you have black people, white people, Italian, Irish, Mexicans, and what have you, in this particular county or neighborhood, then the police officers should include all of those people, because so that they can serve as checking and balancing. But when you have police officers patrolling an area that is predominantly black and there is no single black person there, well, in fact, what it says is that the force itself seems to be, to me, that they are the ones practicing the racism. Okay, because, and they cannot tell me that they cannot find black people, but when they say we can, because, I mean, well, now, I know police officers do a lot of work, but what kind of brain does it take to be a police officer that they cannot find a black person? I mean, some of these people are essentially, some of them, for example, I've had people advertising for high school graduates, you know, and I mean, we have a whole bunch of black people graduating from high school. Now, some are asking for an undergraduate. But I think there has to be a willingness of black people to join the force, and not for the love of the profession to serve and protect the people, all people for that matter. If you're a black person, I mean, whether it's a black person doing the crime, speeding, I mean, the bad fact, let him be caught and then be fined or be given a ticket. The same thing. But if this is where we have to be involved in the political system, because the political system is what actually makes sure that all people are represented in all areas.
I think people have been abused by the same system so much that they wouldn't even want to be a part of the same system. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
But when you say people have been abused, who have been abusing them? If you say when white police officers abuse black people.
Well, to be honest, I was really raised on these streets, and mostly all my life I've lived in neighborhoods where the police have policed us. I remember growing up on Long Island. I remember different cops. One cop I remember was Irish with red hair and freckles. And I remember we used to walk down the street in our neighborhood, and he would drive along beside us real slow and make comments to different guys that we would be walking with because they are familiar with them. I remember how...
What do you mean by familiar with them?
For instance, if you have a police officer his job is to patrol neighborhood 67, and you have kids that live in neighborhood 67, you may have kids that get arrested or whatever, then that police officer becomes familiar with the kids of neighborhood 67, and he considers neighborhood 67 his territory. But this has been the problem with my dealings with the police officers. They are the head of the crime in my neighborhoods. I don't know, mostly any drug dealers that can run whatever they're running on these streets without paying the police off. In order to run on these streets, you have to have the police in your pocket. You have to have you have to be put in a position to be able to perform favors for them. And if you cannot, then what they do is they haul you into jail, and then you're over.
You got to snitch and stuff.
Exactly. Although they will give you life for selling crack for them, but because you don't do what they tell you to do, and usually what they tell you to do will always compromise, kill, and steal from you and destroy you. Now, once you operate in self-preservation, then they operate in self-preservation, and their main goal is to preserve their system of greed. I've done a little research on police and the origin of the police. From what I know about in I can't even say it was early 1900s, I believe, in Philadelphia, how a lot of police were picked from poor Irish neighborhoods. They were picked, they call them brutes. They picked the brutes because they knew the brutes were frustrated. They knew they weren't being paid enough. They weren't being fed enough. However, they weren't wealthy. They were from Ireland. They're the immigrants. So what they did, they said, we're going to use these immigrants to police the slaves, to police the black people. And the Irish were already jealous and upset at the black people because regardless of what situation we're placed in, we always adapt. We always find a way to survive, and we always succeed. So what the police did was that they would pick nights where they would just go and burn churches and lynch people and kill the elderly. And then you can research this and look this up in the Philadelphia newspapers. Then they would write about it and glorify it in the newspaper. These are the origins of our police force. Like you previously said, if you are a racist and you were raised to be a racist, you're going to take that racism with you into your profession. So if we have so many, if the origin of police in this nation was founded on racism, how can they separate from that? And my next question to you is, do you believe that it would be easier for a black America to try to assimilate into the police force that exists now, or would it be easier for us to police ourselves?
Well, okay. The issue of police corruption, or the history of it, dates far back from the conception of the idea of having a police force. People are not perfect, but you have to agree, in a way, from your experience, that generally the goal of a police force is to protect the people, all the people, right? Now, if you have a corrupt... Well, I mean, that is the idea of having a police. Whether they do or not, that's another issue.
I disagree. I believe that the goal of the police force has always been to police a people so that they can control their best interests. I believe that just like democracy, it is an illusion of freedom, that it's like placing a rat in a maze and putting a piece of cheese in front of them, calling it democracy, knowing that you're never going to let this rat get this cheese, but you know that as long as this rat chases this cheese, you prosper from it. And I believe that this is the stance that America has taken, and then they created other rats and taught them how to make sure that that rat that is chasing that cheese always chases the cheese.
Okay. When you have, say for example, at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you run to your car, and then you find your car vandalized. Whom do you call?
Honestly, the first person I call is the first person I trust. And I do not trust the police department.
But would the police be involved?
The only reason that the police would be involved is because I know that I would not be able, I know the system, and I know how the system works. And I know that if I do not create a paper trail, that my insurance company, which is also part of the system to get my money because of their greed, will work in cahoots with the police department. Say she never filed a report.
I look up the street, who do I see? Old police trying to bustle me. I took the dope, I ran with hope. The next thing you know, I'm in the counter hanging from a rope. Plastic man, trying to get over any way he can.
Any way he can.
I got to put my fronts on.